build customer advocacy, which is important to us all. She is the author of 5 books and has presented over 1,600 keynotes in 14 countries. She's a former Young Australian of the Year, a recipient of the Centenary Medal for Business Innovation, and in 2018 was awarded the Keynote Speaker of the Year by the Professional Speakers of Australia. She is here to take us on a journey of insights and fresh perspectives. She gives us a peek into the future of consumers. Ladies and gentlemen, open your minds, fasten your seatbelts, and get ready for an amazing customer experience that you're going to be able to give to others and experience yourself from Amanda Stevens.
Thank you, everyone. It is amazing to be here. We only have 45 minutes together today, and in that time I have 3 very big objectives. My first objective is I want to share as many strategies and insights and takeaways as I can possibly pack into that time around the future of consumers, the changes that are going on, and where I think the opportunities lie for elevating customer experiences. Now, obviously, we have hundreds of different industries represented in this room today, so I'm going to share lots of different insights. Some are going to be super relevant for you, but I want you to think about, as we go through particularly the trends and the strategies, how you're going to customize and how you're going to implement this in your business. So I've just released my 6th book, Radical Customer Obsession. Thank you. This was a very hard book to release, and in writing it, I've probably committed to re-releasing it every 6 months, because that's how quickly things are changing. Obviously, technology is changing things dramatically, but we know that human behaviour and consumer expectations, behaviours and motivations and priorities are changing. And my goal today, my hope for you, is that I'm going to arm you with the tools that you need to get ahead of the game and create a competitive advantage. So I want today to be an opportunity for you to get horizon focused, for you to think about the future and think about the future needs of your customers and clients and how potentially you can future-proof your brand. Now, the first big change that's going on, and these are global trends that I'm sharing with you, is obviously people are spending a lot more time at home. We are working more from home, but we're also entertaining more at home, and it's really changing the relationship that we have with our home environment. For example, home gyms are currently up 28%, infrared saunas are up 18%, so it's changing the demands that we have of our home environment, which is obviously opening up lots of opportunities for many of you in this room. We have the highest rate of pet ownership globally than we ever have, and where are my Australians in the room here? Because we now hold the title. We hold the title of having the highest rate of pet ownership, and we spend more per pet than any country in the world. 72% of Australian households. In some households, including mine, we spend more on our pet, feeding our pet, than we do on our children. Now, that actually speaks to how well my dog eats, not how badly my children eat, just clarifying. Now, from a demographic perspective, what we're seeing right now is the rise of the millennials. So millennials globally now make up the largest proportion of the population. They've overtaken baby boomers just in the last couple of years, in fact. And if you said to me, for many people in this room, for many business owners, Amanda, who is my customer of the future? Get your crystal ball out, and if I had to pinpoint it into one very specific bullseye target, are there any Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fans? Does anyone remember the meaning of life? 42. We've got a lot of you in the room. I love it. And if I had to pinpoint it for you, 42 is where it's at. The 42-year-old consumer in the next few years is going to be at peak earning, peak spending, peak buying property, and also peak starting businesses. So that's the exciting part. Now, that said, we can't overlook our other demographics. Where are my Gen Xers in the room? My Gen Xers, yes? Now, of course, we love to keep everyone guessing because we could have been born in the 60s, the 70s, or the 80s. And I as a marketer, I love how marketers get marketing to Gen Xers just so wrong. So I live north of here in Queensland. We've got any Queenslanders in the house? So I live on the Sunshine Coast, the most beautiful part of Australia, and I was flying out of our Sunshine Coast airport a couple of days ago, and this billboard was staring at me at the airport. And these always make me laugh, the over 50s retirement villages. Because I always giggle, because I think to myself, what 51-year-old is waking up thinking, well, we're in our 50s now, we better move into one of those villages with the other old people. I feel like ringing one of those villages one day and just saying, hey, I turned 50 last year, is it okay if I bring my 8-year-old to the over 50s village? Like, what facilities do you have for kids? And of course, representation of age, if you think about it, has changed so dramatically. Our attitudes to aging, our attitudes to age itself have changed dramatically, and of course that's reflected in representation in mainstream media. I'm showing my age here a little bit, but who remembers the Golden Girls? Would anyone like to guess the age that Betty White was portrayed to be in this photo, in this show at this time? 67? 70-something, 49. And of course, Sandra Bullock has just turned 60. Age goals right there. And can we just take a moment, ladies, and just hope that this hairstyle never comes back in fashion? Please. So baby boomers are changing dramatically, and this is opening up opportunities in almost every sector of business. We are living longer. In fact, they now say that if you're born after 2028, it's more likely than not that you will live to 100. Just let that sink in for a moment. So we're living longer, we are working longer, and our attitudes to aging is changing dramatically, and it's opening up opportunities, of course, in the wellness sector in particular. And it's changing our approach for the finance people in the room. It's changing our approach to retirement planning. Traditional approach to retirement planning was you would retire at the age of 65 or 70, hope to goodness you had enough savings, super, or whatever the equivalent is in your country, and then live frugally and miserably for the rest of your life until you died. And then left an inheritance to your children. That is completely changing. We are working longer, we're living longer. I don't know if you know this, but globally, I love this stat, I love everything about it, that globally, the fastest growing sector for startup businesses is women over the age of 50. Yes. So there's this new movement called Die with Zero. Has anyone read this book? Yeah, it's incredible, hey? So this new approach to retirement planning is, the concept is, and I'm not giving any financial advice here, I just want to make that very clear. You set up your kids so they're financially independent, and you do that very early, and then you live large for the rest of your life, and the goal is to die with zero. Who can subscribe to this theory? Take my money. And of course, this is driving sectors like travel. The travel sector has completely boomed in the last 5 years. And I think how we're all traveling is very different. I think prior to the pandemic, we all had a bit of a travel bucket list, didn't we? And now I think what most people have is a bit of a travel bucket list. Who's having to snooze some friends who are just being a little bit smug about their European holidays right now on social? We get it, Brittany, you're in the Greek islands. Now, we're also seeing, as a researcher, I love it looking what industries and sectors are intersecting, and where trends and consumer behaviour is intersecting and emerging and providing lots of opportunities. So the wellness sector, for example, we know fitness and wellness is being driven by women, but there's this dynamic that I think applies to almost every single business, and it's such an untapped opportunity for many businesses, and that is a dynamic called the inner circle. There's this thing I've called the later life effect, because we are getting married later, we're having children later. Globally now 20% of couples are choosing to remain childless. And so what we are seeing is that women in particular are almost surrounding themselves in their 20s and 30s with a pseudo family. I call it the inner circle. It's usually 2 or 3 other women. And what we're seeing is that inner circle, and obviously this applies to networking, this inner circle is emerging as the #1 source of information about new products and services. So I want you to think about this opportunity beyond networking, and the question I want to pose to you is, how shareable is your brand? How incentivized and rewarded and encouraged am I as an existing customer of your business to invite and share my brand experience? Because the answer to that could literally be tapping you into a whole new layer or 2 layers of new customers. So as I said, the wellness sector is completely booming, and in fact the fastest growing sector of travel is wellness travel. And if you micro chunk that down even further, the fastest growing sector of wellness travel is sleep retreats. Believe it or not, people are paying thousands of dollars to go away for the weekend just to catch up on sleep. For me, that's just called the Hilton Hotel, by myself for 2 nights. And the reality is we are all tired, right? We're tired, we're digitally distracted, our cortisol levels are higher than they've ever been. And if you doubt whether people are tired, just ask them. They will tell you. I love young people. When you go up to a young person, you meet a young person and you say, how are you? And they say, oh, just tired. Like, really? Why are you tired? I don't know. Oh, I got 8 hours of sleep last night. I worked 3 days a week. I'm just exhausted. I'm like, you're 24 years old, pull yourself together. But that's the reality. And I'm so passionate, I'm so fascinated by the longevity space, because I think it's going to revolutionise aging and how we are living later in life. There's a startup business in Melbourne called Everlab. It's only about 2 years old. It's now using AI technology to analyse all of your biomarkers and all of your kind of testing that they do, that it can predict early prediction of over 1,000 preventative diseases. This is the new frontier of longevity. Now, you would assume, I'm an Everlab customer, you would assume that the target audience is people in their 50s and 60s. Their primary target audience is people in their 20s and 30s. That's how early now we are focused on longevity and anti-aging and looking after our health, and what a great news story that is. Now, if I had to sum up for you the opportunity and why I'm so passionate about the customer experience and its ability to scale a business and to grow your business and to future-proof your business, I could distill it down to one word. So I have recently returned from Japan. Where are my Japanese contingent? Oh. And the crowd went mild. Make some noise, thank you. Late starters, but you're making up for last time. That's good, I love it. Now, if you've ever been to Japan, you'd know they have a very unique way of delivering on the customer experience. Culturally, they have a very unique ethos when it comes to customer service. And there's actually a word in Japanese, it's in fact the only language in the entire world that has a word to describe service culture. And the word is omotenashi. And omotenashi simply means to be of service. Not to be servant, but to be of service without expecting anything in return. This is the very principle that BNI has been built on. It's the very principle that I think oozes out of your founder, Dr. Ivan Misner. It is about being of service. It's not about selling. It's about giving and being of service without expecting anything in return. The literal translation is to look wholeheartedly after our guests. Now, I wonder if you made today, the 20th of November, 2025, the point in time, the day in history that you chose to go back to your business and dial in and double down and go all in on omotenashi in everything that you do, in every conversation, in every interaction, in every touch point in your service delivery. I wonder where your business could be in 12 months' time. Now, how do you bring omotenashi to life? What does it actually look like from a behavioural point of view? I'm going to give you 5 thought starters today, and they're easy to remember because they all begin with C. And my goal today, and my hope today, by the way, is that I raise just as many, if not more, questions than I answer for you, and start some conversations in this room that you can continue long after our time together. So the first is something I think we all have lost the art of a little bit, and that is the art of curiosity. Being more curious, asking better questions, and being interested more than we are interesting. I guarantee, ladies and gentlemen, that no matter what business you're in, and the reason you're in this room today, that the quality of the results that you achieve in the next 12 months will come down to the quality of the questions you're asking. Now, like Ivan, I too have been to Necker Island, so that's something we have in common. In 2018, I was invited, along with 19 other entrepreneurs, to a leadership retreat at Necker Island. Now, this privilege, if you like, and this opportunity, incredible opportunity, to literally witness and observe Richard Branson in his natural environment for an entire week, something very poignant became apparent to me very quickly. Richard Branson's head exists almost permanently at a 15-degree angle. He is an introvert, but without doubt always being the most interesting person at the table, he was always the most interested. He was always asking the most questions, he was always saying, "Tell me more," he was always leaning in, he was always wanting to go deeper on someone's story. And as I observed this over a week, it occurred to me that this is probably one of his secrets to success. Richard Branson is 75 years old. And let me tell you, and Ivan will back me up on this, he runs his businesses with the enthusiasm and energy of a startup. He comes at life and conversations and interactions with this relentless, almost childlike curiosity. It's really quite mesmerizing to watch. And let's be honest, he's Richard Branson. He has all the answers. But he's the one asking all the questions. And it was a reminder for me that as humans, we can only ever be in one of those two states. We can be interested or interesting. We can never be both. And something that Sir Richard Branson said to me on that trip in 2018 that has always stuck with me is that curiosity and frustration build the best businesses. Now, he said this in the context of Virgin Voyager, a cruise brand that has gone on to disrupt an entire industry of travel. And he said it in the context of what the seed of the idea for Virgin Voyager and how it came about. Because Richard himself had been invited on no less than 100 cruises, and he'd always said no. So he got curious about why. What was it that didn't appeal to him? What was the frustration? What was the turn-off? Why did he not want to go on a traditional cruise? Now, can I see a show of hands in the room? I can't see the people at the top very well, but just show of hands, who in the room? Who in the room has never been on a cruise? You've never ever been on a cruise? Wow, I'm going to take a stab and say that's about 70% of the people in the room. If you've never been on a cruise, just yell out to me the reason or reasons you've never been on a cruise. People. Someone said people. There's just people everywhere. You can't escape. You're stuck. Someone said kids. Kids. There's just kids everywhere. Icebergs. That's very specific. We may need a breakout workshop for you. Phobia is boring. Regimented, you're stuck. Seasickness. Okay, they're all good reasons. What was that one? Children. Yeah, kids. Children, kids everywhere. Sorry? You're captive, yeah. And they're all really good, valid reasons. I actually think for most of us, the reason, until Virgin Voyager, but the reason that most people don't go on a cruise, and all those reasons are valid, I actually think you could essentially distill it down to one single word: buffet. Has anyone ever looked at other human beings at a buffet and thought to yourself, if this was the point in time where aliens chose to come down to Earth and observe human behaviour, they'd probably just leave again and think there's no intelligent life? Anyone ever looked at other human beings at a buffet and thought to yourself, have you never had access to free food before? And I'm sure if we brainstormed it for longer, we could literally come up with 100 reasons why people don't go on cruises. So that's where they started. They started with all those frustrations, icky factors, and the things that people don't like or turn them off or prevent them. and they flipped the switch on every single one of them. Virgin Voyager ships are designed to be anti-seasickness. It's adults only, no children. There's a focus on wellness and luxury. They don't go anywhere where there's icebergs. And most importantly, not a single buffet on the ship. Just 12 Michelin star restaurants. And you can get off and on every single day. Someone's Googling Virgin Voyager trip right here. So Richard Branson should have me on commission. That's the power of curiosity and frustration, thinking about what are the pain points. Because I think now is the time as business owners, we need to be radically customer obsessed. We need to obsess about what is going on in their lives, what is keeping our customers awake at night, how can we help solve their problems, how can we be more omotenashi in the way that we deliver our product, our service, or our experience. Now, do you know what some of the best brands in the world get this wrong? Now, and I will say, firstly, that for the men in the room, I'm sorry to say this, but you're actually at a natural disadvantage here when it comes to curiosity. God bless your cotton socks, I haven't located it yet, but it is somewhere in your DNA. It's called the problem-solving gene. Guys, men, males, love nothing more than skipping through life solving problems. And in fact, scientists have recently discovered that when a male finds a solution to a problem, dopamine levels, which is the happy hormone in your brain, dopamine levels actually kick up a little. So you actually physically, kind of scientifically, get off on solving problems, right? Now this can cause issues and friction, not just in a customer experience sense, but also in our personal relationships. What's your name here, sir, at the front? Charlie. Charlie, I want you to pretend for a moment that you and I are dating, like as if you haven't already. I feel like Charlie's blushing just a little. So I come home one afternoon, I am crying tears the whole works. I'm clearly upset about something. What's the first thing that Charlie, being the caring, sensitive partner that he is, what's the first thing he asks me? Not what's for dinner, whoever said that. That's the wrong answer. How is the divorce going? He says, what's wrong? I say, well, I've had a fight with Alana. We've been best friends for 45 years. What am I going to do? Charlie thinks there's a problem-solving queue. Well, honey, that's really simple. Just call her and sort it out. You guys, never fight. So anyway, and then she brought up that thing from 5 years ago, and then I said that I really regret saying that. Should I call her now or should I leave it to tomorrow? Charlie thinks there's another problem-solving queue. Honey, that's really simple. Just call her and sort it out. So anyway, and then she rang Julia and got her involved, and now it's way bigger than it needs to be. Charlie at this point is thinking, why are we still talking about this problem? I solved it 2 minutes ago. We don't want you to solve it. All together now, girls, we just want them to. A few of the guys in the room are like, listen. And my real husband's smart now. When I come home and I'm upset, he says, stop right there. I can see that you're upset, but just before we go on, to clarify, am I solving this problem or am I just listening? So as I said, we see this happen all the time in business, and as I said, some of the best brands in the world get this wrong. In fact, the world's #1 brand, the first brand in the world to reach $1 trillion valuation. Does anyone remember what the world's first $1 trillion brand was? So who's been into an Apple store in the last 12 months? Okay, a lot of you. So I go to my local Apple store because I needed an adapter thing for my new MacBook. Because of course, when you buy a new Apple computer, you only need about 5 new adapters. And they're cheap too. So I barely through those front doors. And you know the people who work in Apple stores in the coloured shirts? They're fascinating little creatures, aren't they? I'm barely through those front doors. He comes bounding up to me like a Labrador. He says, hi, how are you? What can I do for you? I'm thinking, dude, you need to get out of my personal space and lay off the energy drinks for 1 hour. Now, is he customer focused? Yes or yes? Very customer focused. Is he passionate about where he works? Does he know a lot about the products and services where he works? No doubt. So he's ticking a lot of boxes that you think are important when it comes to the customer experience. So I started explaining what I thought I needed. It was this new adapter thing. I'm mid-sentence. He cuts me off. He says, "Oh, I know exactly what you need. Come with me." Now, in his mind, he's high-fiving himself, thinking, how good am I? I've just solved that customer's problem in 2.4 seconds. I should have a cape. I'm guessing he probably has a cape at home, but that's a whole other story. In my mind, I'm actually having a negative customer experience because I feel like he hasn't. But here's the interesting thing. The thing that he went to the wall in the 2.4 seconds and got me, it was the right thing. But I walked out of there having had a negative customer experience. Now, doesn't that sound counterintuitive? Because the reason you're in this room, the reason that you're part of this world-class family, B&I, is that ultimately each and every one of you are in some way in the problem-solving business. You want to come up with the perfect solutions and outcomes for your customers. And I'm not saying efficiency isn't important, of course it is, because we're all so busy and we're all so tired, particularly the young people. But this is the difference, ladies and gentlemen, between living in your world and living in your customer's world. Imagine the exact same time, the exact same walk, the exact same 2.4 seconds, but as we're walking, he's not living in his world, he's living in my world. And as we're walking, he says, what do you need the adapter for? Oh, you're a speaker, that's so interesting. The other adapter we find a lot of presenters need from time to time is this one. He's taken that from an $80 sale to a $160 sale, and I've had a better outcome. Because here's the thing, when we stay in curiosity, when we ask more questions, when we ask better questions, and we live in our customer's world, it can literally change outcomes. Who likes Kit Kats? It's not a trick question. I always love when I ask this question, people are like, I don't know. I do like Kit Kats, but I'm not going to put my hand up. This might be the weird part of the presentation where she gets someone up on stage and hypnotises them like a chicken. I think it's fairly binary, like you either like Kit Kats or you don't. So who likes Kit Kats? Oh, more of you like Kit Kats now. Fascinating. Now, Charlie, honey. We have about 1,800 people in the room and we have 5 Kit Kats. So how are we going to do this? Oh, he says whatever I want. That's why I married you. Can you come and get these Kit Kats? Should we just give them to the good-looking people? Obviously didn't bring enough. Now here is the... Oh, you're away. Charlie knows what to do. He's just giving it. Enthusiasm wins a prize. Oh. We may have an occupational health and safety issue here. Charlie, thank you. Round of applause for my beautiful Charlie. So it's a Wednesday afternoon and I am filling up my car with petrol. This is a few years ago, before EVs. And this was also back when petrol cost less than wine. Do you remember those days? There's a lesson in that, I think. Drink, don't drive. I actually thought that was hilarious, but anyway. So I go inside to pay for the petrol, and as I went to tap my card for the $92, the cashier said, would you like her? Play along at home, people, would you like her? For an extra $1? Where are you getting Kit Kats? For an extra $2. I said, look, I won't take the Kit Kat, but I'm curious. I obviously think and obsess about this stuff more than most people. I said, I've always wondered how many people actually say yes to the Kit Kat, because I've actually never seen anyone take the Kit Kat on the upsell. I said, roughly out of 10, how many do you reckon? His eyes lit up and he said, I can tell you precisely how many. He happened to be the proprietor of the service station, of the gas station, and it was a big gas station. He owned 3 of them. How many people do you think say yes to the Kit Kat at point of purchase out of 10? 7, 5, 2, 3. I would have thought 3 to 4 on a good day. 6.2. 62% of people say yes to the Kit Kat because they're offered the Kit Kat. I then said, how many customers a day do you serve? And he said around 1,500 all up. You doing the math? I know your brains are pretty full, let me do it for you. $678,000 a year in additional revenue just for asking the question. Now, why don't we ask these questions? Why don't we ask what more we can do for our customers, what else we might have that they don't even know we offer? Why don't we go deeper, ask further questions, different questions, and offer up additional products and services? We don't do that because it's easier to not ask the question. Because, of course, in dealing with the 6.2 people who say yes to the Kit Kat, he's having to deal with the 3.8 people who say no to the Kit Kat, isn't he? And when people are saying no, when we're stepping outside our comfort zone to ask these questions, we're facing the fear of what? Rejection. I guarantee, ladies and gentlemen, it is the fear of rejection that is one of the #1 silent handbrakes in your business right now. Because he's got to deal with those 3.8 people who say no, and that's always a bit awkward. But do you think every time someone says no to the Kit Kat, he goes out the back to the office and thinks, oh my God, I feel so rejected, I can't even go back out there? He's making it rain. He's got 678 grand in the bank because he's brave enough to ask the question. When I drove out of that petrol station that day, mind a little blown once I had done the math, I thought to myself, wow, I think every business in every industry has a Kit Kat question. Questions we're not asking because it's easier to not ask the question. So if I do nothing else in this room today but probe you, prompt you, challenge you, and get you thinking about your Kit Kat question or questions in your business, then I've done my job. Here's the other thing about curiosity. When we ask more questions and we stay interested more than we are interesting, and this is so relevant for networking, it enables us to build trust very quickly. Because what it enables us to do is build commonality. People now and in the future will gravitate more and more to people and brands and places that they have something in common with. We gravitate particularly to people that we have something in common with. We actually have it as an inbuilt, unconscious survival mechanism. Because when we are with people or places that we have something in common with, it makes us feel what? Safe, thank you. It makes us feel safe. It actually speaks to our highest human need. Now, when you break it all down, whether you're dealing with a new customer, whether you're having a one-on-one, or whether you're welcoming someone to a B&I meeting, isn't safe the overriding emotion you want them to feel? You want them to feel safe that they're in the right place. You want them to feel safe that you're the right person for them to be talking to. You just want them to feel safe that this is where they're meant to be. And when we ask more questions, it enables us to build those threads of commonality, the new platform for trust. Now, commonality, by the way, is a slightly dominant female trait, because if you listen carefully, you'll hear it in the conversations that women strike up with each other, particularly when they first meet. It's usually based on commonality. We're better at it. It could be along the lines of, I love your top. I don't think you can ever have enough sparkles. I wear that top like that all the time. Did you just holiday in Noosa? Oh my goodness, I live there. Now, sometimes we have to stretch, but we will work with what you give us. Is your birthday in August? Oh my goodness, mine's in July. We may be the same star sign. We will take that thread of commonality. So on that trip to Necker Island in 2018, one of the other incredible humans we had with us on that trip was a woman by the name of Katie Coleman. Katie Coleman was the first female NASA astronaut to lead a mission to the International Space Station. How's that for a byline on your LinkedIn profile? It's pretty impressive. And Katie told the story of that mission very openly and honestly, and Katie had a problem. She was leading the mission. She had 3 astronauts with her, a Russian, an American, and a Chinese astronaut. Sounds like the start of a very bad joke, but stick with me. And not only did those 3 male astronauts not like each other, they actually refused to talk to each other. And they're 6 weeks out from the mission. Now, I'm not an astronaut, obviously, but I'm assuming if there's 4 of you in a pretty confined space, in a spaceship, hurtling to the International Space Station, what's probably pretty important? Communication and teamwork. So Katie had to put her own ego aside, and she had to start with the one thing she knew all 3 of them had in common, and that's the fact that all 3 of them hated and resented the fact that she had been chosen as the first female to head up the mission, and they did not hide it. So she started with what they had in common, and from there she could build the communication, build the trust, build the teamwork. And the wonderful term that Katie had for it, which I think is such a beautiful metaphor for the reason that you're in this room today, is magnetic threads. She said, as humans, we are all bound and we are all connected by magnetic threads. Everyone in this room, everyone on this planet is connected and bound in some way by a magnetic thread, the things that we have in common, but they're invisible. And it's our job as humans, and it's our job as leaders to find the magnetic threads and turn them from invisible to visible. And we can only do that by staying in curiosity. Can you imagine if more people made it their mission to find more magnetic threads with other human beings on this planet? We might be in a very different position. Sorry, let me go back. About a year ago, my husband and I took our young son, Ollie, to this water park called Wet n Wild. It's a water park here in Australia on the Gold Coast, and he wanted to go on this ride called the Flow Rider, which looks quite tame, but it's quite dangerous. That water's gushing up at about 80 kilometres an hour. And so as you can imagine, there's quite a waiver form to fill out, which absolves the theme park of any responsibility should something go wrong. So as I'm filling out the form, the ride attendant, who I'm going to say was no older than 18 years old, said to me, "Wow, you've got really beautiful handwriting." And I said, "Well, it's really funny you say that, because this week, 3 years ago, I was in ICU battling sepsis and I wasn't expected to survive. And the one thing that has not fully recovered, weirdly, is my handwriting." She said, "Oh my goodness, my dad had sepsis 6 months ago. He nearly died and he had his right arm amputated." So she's crying, I'm crying, we're hugging. My poor son Ollie's standing there saying, "Am I still going on this? What is happening here?" You know, we're in the AI era, no doubt. And I'm here for it. I love AI, I love technology, I love what it enables us to do, to scale, to be more productive. But here's what I want you to remember about AI. AI ultimately is going to make us more human, not less human. And it's going to increase the need for the human connection. And that's why I think the future of B&I has never looked brighter. So my next C is customization, and we're seeing some brands and businesses use micro-customization to personalize the customer experience. I want to tell you a little story about a hotel here in Australia. This is the Adelphi Hotel. As you can see, it's this beautiful boutique hotel, but it sits in a very competitive space. In fact, in the 5 blocks around the Adelphi, there are 5 five-star hotels. So what the Adelphi have done very cleverly is they've taken all of the pain points that people have about staying in nice hotels, and they've just turned them all into these mini moments of customization. And as a result, they're one of the most positively reviewed hotels in Melbourne. So they punch way above their weight when it comes to customer advocacy, both online and offline. And one of the micro moments of customization they've done that has surprised even them is when you turn your TV on, imagine you're staying in a hotel and you turn your TV on, what's generally the first thing you see on that TV? A welcome message, and it'll generally say something like, "Welcome, stevensspace.com/Amanda." And you're like, "Oh, thanks for laughing." At the Adelphi, they write a personal message on every mirror in every single room. This is not a high-tech moment, ladies and gentlemen. This is a high-touch moment. This is an 8-second investment that personalizes the experience and gives someone something to talk about. The future of the customer experience and the opportunity of the customer experience and your ability to harness it to create a competitive advantage and future-proof your business sits at the intersection of high tech and high touch. When you can harness the best of high tech and the best of high touch, that's where you create magic. Now, I'll preface the next part of the story by letting you know that Dion, who's the hotel manager at the Adelphi, and we've become friends. I interviewed him for my new book, and we follow each other on Instagram. So this was the Father's Day card that my son Ollie made for my husband Chris, his stepdad. And I posted it to Instagram stories, and I just said, what a cute card. And obviously, also a reminder to all of us, no matter what challenges we're facing in life, just to always lean into the sun. Can you see which one's me now? So I happened to be checking into the Adelphi Hotel 3 days later, and this was in my room when I checked in. Now, I will say that Ultraviolet, which is that sunscreen brand, was founded by Dion's wife, Ava. So very smart by him, high perceived value, low real cost. I actually took Ollie to the Adelphi for the first time a couple of months ago, and I will say it's not the most child-friendly hotel, but they made such a huge fuss of it, and they're like, Ollie, what are your plans while you're here in Melbourne? And I said, well, I'm working tomorrow, but I bought Ollie to take him to the aquarium because he's obsessed with penguins. I said it once. We go out for lunch, we come back to our room, sitting on our bed in our hotel room was a little book about penguins and a stuffed penguin. Like a toy penguin, not a stuffed penguin. A plush penguin. Do you know how many people I've told this story to? Anyone who'll listen. This is the power of living in your customer's world. Can you do this sort of thing for every single customer every single time? Of course not. But do it a few times, do it consistently, and through the power of cumulative effect, this is how you create advocacy. This is how you create raving fans. This is how you create a force in your business that scales your business all by itself because people are talking about you at barbecues, at dinner parties, and at BNI meetings. Which leads me really nicely onto the next C, which is celebration. I think that there is an opportunity for us to just inject much greater celebration, to celebrate our customers, to celebrate our teams, and celebrate each other. So this is Ollie, my son. As some of you know, I had a very long, rocky road to motherhood, 7 years, 21 rounds of IVF. IVF taking the fun out of sex since 1976. And then he came super early, he was 9 weeks premature. I'm like, pick a lane, dude. Are you late or are you early? Like, seriously. But as you can see, he's all perfect now. And I pretty much travelled with him for the first couple of years of life. I scooped him up and I just took him on the road so I could be with him and do what I love, which is this. In fact, this was his very first flight. Loves business class. This was his 60th flight. And when he was 20 months old, he did his 100th commercial flight. Oh, that picture's gone off a little bit. This is a very cool story. So we're flying with Qantas from Melbourne to Brisbane, and just before we taxied out, I took a photo because I wanted to remember the milestone. And I took a photo and I posted it to Instagram, and I just said, how cool, Ollie's doing his 100th flight today, and I tagged Qantas. So we're just about to descend into Brisbane. The flight attendant approaches us and says, I'm looking for Master Oliver. He said, Mummy, that's me. She said, Oliver, we understand it's your 100th flight today. That's incredible. I've got a personal invitation from the pilot. He'd like to see you in the cockpit when we land in Brisbane so we can celebrate with you. Now, they don't do this anymore as a result of 9/11, so it's a big deal for them to make an exception. So as you can see, he got to hang out in the cockpit. They made a huge fuss of him. They got to play with all those buttons and levers. Thank goodness that plane was stationary. He even got to keep the captain's hat, which I did feel bad about at the time. But then when COVID hit, I'm like, well, he doesn't need that anymore, does he? Too soon? Charlie thought it was funny. This is the stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is the stuff. Make a big deal about your customers and watch the boomerang effect, pun intended, that will have on your business. And my final C is ceremony. Has anyone, apart from the Japanese people in the room, has anyone ever sat through a full Japanese tea ceremony? Yeah, it takes about 20-25 minutes, and here's what they recently learnt. Listen to this very carefully. The tea served at the end of the Japanese tea ceremony rated way higher on taste test research than the same tea from the same pot served into the same cup at the same temperature. Served straight up. Isn't that incredible? That's how clever the human brain is. This ceremony altered the perceived taste of the tea. I don't need to tell you that most of you, if not all of you, are operating in very competitive industries and markets. And there are plenty of people in your industry, in your sector, who claim to be able to do exactly what you do with the same products, the same services. But no one can do it the way you do it. And no one can make your customers feel the way you're able to make them feel. And I want to finish with this final story. I also, like Lisa, have a team in the Philippines, and we fly them in once a year for a team retreat. In January, it was in Boracay. And on the first morning, I woke up early and I went to go for a run on the beach. And as I got down to the sand, I realized that it had been raked, like literally raked, like it was perfect. And so I did that thing that we all do when someone's mopped a floor. Please laugh, because that was really awkward for me. And I look over and there's someone, a Movenpick, which is the name of the hotel, a Movenpick staff member reaching into the sand, picking up things out of the sand. And I initially thought, oh, he's picking up shells. That's kind of cute. And as I got closer, I realized what he was actually picking up out of the sand was tiny bits of seaweed. Clumps of seaweed that had washed up on the beach overnight. And when I say clumps of seaweed, I'm talking 3 to 5 centimetre bits of seaweed. Would guests have even noticed this seaweed? Probably not. That was the level of attention to detail and the commitment to service excellence that this hotel was prepared to go to. I later found out that day that that member of staff was quite a senior member of staff at the Movenpick. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we have to be prepared to pick up the seaweed. We have to be prepared to do the things and raise the bar and elevate our experience in a way that our customers are not prepared to do, and that is how we win the battle for relevance. So be more curious, find the commonality, find those magnetic threads, customise your offering, your product, your service or experience, celebrate your customers, deliver on a sense of ceremony, and be willing to pick up the seaweed, and I guarantee you will win. My hope today, as I said, that I've raised just as many, if not more, questions than I've answered. Continue the conversation, continue it with the amazing human beings in this room, and feel free to continue it with me as well. I'm usually hanging out, because I need to tell you my preferred platform. I took that away from the last session, Ivan, thank you. I'm usually hanging out on Instagram or LinkedIn. So connect, drop by, tell me what you're going to do differently, what's the seaweed that you're going to pick up, and how you're going to be more curious. Be interested more than you're interesting. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Amanda Stevens. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Stevens.
Amanda Stevens, everybody. Let's give her a big warm round.